Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I'm going to be doing an account overview, letting you know after the Cyber Weekend deals and everything where I ended up with the account. We got a lot of new awakenings and 4 new rank 3s, which is pretty awesome. So now the rank 3 total is up to 28 with those 4 new ones. And I'm going to kind of go over all of those champions and then show you the resources that I have leading toward my first rank 4, as well as awakening gems and things like that. So let's get started. First and foremost, I did awaken Spider-Man 2099, and this came from a featured crystal that was just kind of formed. And I do have a lot of science sig stones that I can use on him, and I am debating having him be my main champion to use these on. The thought behind that being he will eventually go to rank 4. I think he's going to be my first science rank 4, probably like the 4th rank 4 overall at this point. So it's going to be a while, and I don't mind giving him the sig stones to kind of get his damage a little bit higher, since I am going to be using him in the meantime. And then eventually he'll be sig 200 and I can take him up. Some of the other dupes that I got were Sorcerer Supreme. She came out of a Mystic Nexus crystal and was actually one of my top targets, so I was really happy about that. As you can see, her sig ability gives her 15% additional ability accuracy, which means when you fight Domino with her, it completely counters the probability field, and she will not crit fail because of any abilities being reduced. So it's a really good ability. This can go up and up to 50%, which does have some benefits against other nodes like maybe Hard Knock Life and stuff like that. But overall, having her just at 20 is a huge advantage and addition to her utility. I also duped Tigra for the first time. If you saw on my opening video, I had about 8k units left, and as you can see, I am basically zeroed out on units now. Most of that was from grinding, and I'm really glad I had those resources because the 18k worth of units was an incredible deal. You got to select a 2020 champ, and I decided to select Tigra because Doom is currently max sig, and I don't really have another Mystic champion to give sig stones to, so she is going to now be the new recipient of all my Mystic sig stones, which is just going to make her more and more powerful as the sig goes up. I think she's a really good champion for that, and I'm happy to finally have her awakened because she was already rank 3. And that's going to do it for the awakenings. As for the new rank 3s, these are in no particular order, but first of all we have Hercules. So I did pull him in my most recent featured crystal, besides the Spider-Man 2099 one. So pretty incredible if you think about it. Back-to-back crystals, Herc, and then Spider-Man 2099 dupe. So he is awake. He's not awakened, and the thing is, I do have a contingency plan because I have this generic, and this is also from the 18k units worth of deals. So I'm going to try a couple more times to go for the featured crystals to get him awakened, but it is really good to know that in the back of my head I have this just in case. At some point I'm going to start saving shards for the next featured crystal, which has Anti-Venom and Kitty Pryde and Nimrod. And some other, and Null and some folks like that. And I think that's going to be a really powerful crystal that I want to start saving for, but it also would be really nice to get like the 20 clean levels on Hercules instead of having to use this awakening gem. So he's certainly going to be usable for now, but it will be nice to get that immortality going. Let's see, I also ranked 3 Symbiote Supreme, which is a little interesting because I already have Sorcerer Supreme and so many Mystic champions. But believe it or not, this was actually a defense rank up because currently we have high ground and we weren't maxed out on our high ground champions at rank 3. We only had one other rank 3 Symbiote Supreme in our battle group, and that belongs to a player who uses him on offense pretty often. So this made sense. You know, I run Mystic Dispersion, and I certainly don't mind subbing in a new high ground defender. He can certainly be annoying on some placements where like you have to slow play and then he builds up high ground charges. And you know, anytime that you have a Mystic high ground champion, it's going to be tempting to use the pre-fight on Human Torch, but you can only use that once, and you know, it can be a strategy to place him early so they waste the pre-fight and then can't use it later. So yeah, he's a decent enough defender, or at least somebody that can throw a wrench in a plan, that I was happy to rank him up, and he's a really powerful champion on top of it. So the final two, one of them was Nebula, and Nebula, she was sort of in my discussions of like, was I going to rank her or not, back when I was ranking War Machine. And then as soon as I ranked War Machine, we had a couple wars where we were like, ooh, Nebula actually would be really good on offense here. Specifically, there was like a Nimrod that she would have just been a perfect counter for, and we actually sent a rank to Nebula. So mine is only Sig 20, which is pretty low. It is pretty noticeable when she gets higher Sig how the combat power rate affects her playstyle, but that still doesn't really mess with her utility to shut down robots and to sort of nuke stuff down with her shocks and everything. And plus, just having the triple immunity of bleed, poison, and shock is super useful. It's a true option for the ENP modification node, which then leads right into path 3, which has chitinous thorns and enhanced bleed. So you know, just being able to have that bleed and shock immunity back to back like that can be really helpful. We're looking at the future of Alliance War, where there's going to be more and more bans, and this just gives us a little bit of flexibility. So I was really happy to rank her because she was already kind of on my short list, and she finally did get ranked up anyway. And then finally, the last one is actually Hood, which is kind of a similar story to Nebula, where it's like, I haven't really used Hood much, but since I do primarily run Ghost, I'm sort of the Ghost main in our BG3, there will be times that you would want to bring Hood anyway, and this guy can seriously, like, if he takes one fight in Alliance War per war, like, he's doing his job. And you know, even if it's a non-buff opponent, he can just do some mediums and a heavy attack and just sort of be like, one of my friends called it a like a single bullet pistol. Like, you just fire him and kill the thing that is there, and he has done his job. And like, that's about all he's going to be. But certainly there are some buff control matchups that he is going to also be pretty useful for. And yeah, his rework is good. It's a pretty balanced rework, and because he's such an important synergy piece for so many folks, I do think this is going to be a useful rank up. You know, there might be a situation where Dr. Doom gets banned and I'm running Ghost, and it's like, well, if we bring Hood, then he can take that Mystic fight, and I also get the Ghost synergy. Like, there's a lot of ways that he can fit on teams, and because of that, I'm pretty excited about this rank. So those are the 4 ones. Let's just take a look at all of the rank 3s. Dr. Doom, Silver Surfer for Prestige, Sunspot for Prestige. Elsa is sort of my most used skill champion if you've watched my war videos. Apocalypse is actually going to be my first rank 4, I've decided. And before we go on, I do want to just kind of show you that that we have, let me just hit this so it's a little easier to see. But in terms of the tier 3A and the tier 6B, they are about the same in terms of like percentage complete, which means in about, I think, 4 weeks of AQ, I'm going to be able to have this sorted and I can take someone up. Because of the way the mutant is looking right now, that I have over 2 tier 5 class catalysts, and the fact that we are going to have some other Dooms, I'm really leaning heavily to rank APOC. I think at most we're going to have 1 other APOC in the battle group, so having 2 is good. Like, if I needed to place mine on defense, I would actually be okay with that, because we would have the other one available, but I would also really like to use him for attack. I have Archangel, I have Cable as rank 3s. It just kind of makes sense to have him, so I'm pretty excited about that. But going back to the rank 3 list, Ghost sees a lot of use. Back in July, I used a generic gem and all my Sig Stones on her, and I have 0 regrets, because the amount of work that Ghost has been doing in wars for me lately is huge. It was a great example of like how I had used most of my Sig Stones and Awakening gems for Prestige early on. You know, as you can see, we've got Doom, Surfer, Sunspot all maxed, all Sig 200. You know, I took care of that so that then I could have a little bit of fun, rank up Ghost, and she has just been doing a ton of work for me. Very, very happy with that. Mysterio was my first tech, and he doesn't see too much work anymore. He was on defense for a while, and I used him to counter dominoes. Wasp also ranked. It's nice to have the Hood, Ghost, and Wasp team all ranked. She's one of my favorite champs to use. Spider-Man 2099, already kind of talked about. Same with Tigra and Sorcerer and Sim. They kind of speak for themselves. Falcon, he sees a lot of war gameplay for me, but a little bit less this season. I think because MODOK is high ground, he's not as good of a matchup, but he is a pretty good option for a lot of fights. Cosmic Ghost Rider has been great for me in AQ lately, and I do always enjoy using him. War Machine makes sense for my account as well. I have so many wonderful techs that are rank 3s, and he can only enhance them more, and he's really good unto himself. Killmonger has been on defense because we lost one of our other Killmonger players, so I regretfully don't use him that often, but I did take him to a couple war fights a few seasons ago, and it was pretty fantastic. Nova, I think you kind of know how I feel about Nova, but he is a really good defender this season, so happy to have him ranked for defense. Nebula, we already talked about. Mole Man, he makes my AQ teams and occasionally Alliance War. Hercules, soon going to be awakened, hopefully. Archangel, I grinded for him this last year, so he's sitting at Sig 20, and really happy to pair him with Cable and APOC. Ultron is a super fun rank up. He's been to one war, and he makes the AQ team a lot. Abomination, just great utility, and really glad to have him as an option when needed. Professor X, I wish I could use more, but I don't really use him too often. It is really nice to have him for his synergies and mutant enhancements, as well as his own kit. Guillotine 2099 really fits a lot of niche utility, not being able to crit, a really good power drain. She was really important for stuff like Summer of Pain for me, so having her is really important for my roster. Cable, you know, if you have APOC, you might as well have Cable. He fills some roles in addition to the synergy, and you know, if Archangel can't nuke them down because they're bleed immune, then Cable can probably do it. So if you have all three, you're pretty much set. Hood, already talked about, and Warlock. Wish he was awakened, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. And ironically, with high ground, his degen actually counts as one of the things that escalates the high ground. So it actually is kind of nice to have a few unawakened ones, so you don't have to worry about that. In terms of the other rank 2s that may go up in the future, I do have Namor. It's just going to be a little tough to prioritize him when I have Hercules. You know, there was a time where I was thinking Sig 200 Namor was the way to go, but since I have this Awakening Gem and some Sig Stones, you know, Hercules is probably going to get the priority. His prestige is higher. He's a more, you know, universal character in general. He's more likely to go to rank 4. You know, so because of all those factors, Hercules is going to get more Sig Stones right now than Namor. But it is really nice to have a duped Namor, because I think down the line, when Sig Stones become much more plentiful, he's an option. Man Thing, I just have too many other Mystics that are better than him, but he is pretty fun. Domino, she was pretty important for variant 8, so it was nice at least to have her here. Emma Frost has always been on my back burner, but just too many powerful mutants. She-Hulk could get ranked someday. Hulkbuster is probably perfect right at rank 2. He's really fun there. And then going down the line, you know, we have Thor as a prestige play sort of after, you know, Herc as well, if we really wanted to go that way. Miles, I've always sort of kept my eye on. Omega Red is sort of another good, like, Sig Stone usage way down the line. Purgatory, hoping that she gets some kind of a buff. Super Skrull, hope he gets a buff. Jabari, I actually am quite interested in learning to play. She synergizes really well with Tigra and Elsa, who are two of my favorite champs, so I could see her getting ranked someday. Kingpin, definitely on the short list for getting ranked. Rogue, actually really super happy to have her on the account. I used to play Rogue a lot, so duping her would be an interesting thing to think about, ranking her. Void definitely needs the Awakening. Overseer kind of needs the Awakening as well. And with Spider-Man 2099 getting my SIGs, I don't think I'm going to go like the Overseer Prestige route in terms of science, though I suppose I could change my mind. Colossus, definitely underrated in terms of, like, some people love him and some people don't think he's that good. I happen to think that he is quite good, and I would consider ranking him down the line. We've got Kang, we've got Doctor Strange, we got Hawkeye and Joe Fixit, who are going to be updated relatively soon. I got the sort of trophy champ in Ms. Marvel, who is terrible but like kind of rare, so that was kind of fun. And yeah, there's so many champions that I still need. Like I would love Anti-Venom for that synergy. Black Widow, Clairvoyant, Corvus, Captain America. There are just so many champs that I don't have. Human Torch, Hyperion. Null when he comes out. Kitty Pryde's going to be like a top target in the next featured. Mr. Negative, Nick Fury. I mean, the list just goes on and on. There's so many wonderful champions in the game that I don't have that I would really like to get my hands on. Now, in terms of like the rest of the account, I have been working on my account rating a little bit, even though that doesn't matter. It's sort of more of like a collection thing for me. I'm trying to get to 3 million. And what we see here is, my prestige is pretty close to, like as good as I can get with the champions I have. Once I rank up Apocalypse, it's going to be pretty close to 14.2, which is pretty awesome. In terms of the 5 stars, I'll just briefly go through all my rank 5s. The ones that I actually use are Doctor Doom occasionally when the other one is busy. Angela is quite good at Sig 200, even as a 5-star. Quake obviously makes the occasional appearances. Corvus not so much anymore. Magneto and Void are very powerful as 5 stars still, so they do see a little bit of light. Clairvoyant and Torch exist as 5 stars, and they're so good that they do occasionally make teams and things like that. I finally have the Sig 200 Wolverine, or I think he's almost Sig 200, but it was fun to use a 4 to 5 gem on him as well. And nobody else really matters, but for arena purposes I do have quite a lot of rank 3s and rank 4s. As you can see, I think Falcon is the first rank 2. Guardian could go up at some point, but yeah, the roster's looking pretty big for arena. It can be super helpful to have all these champs ranked. And then I've been kind of working on stuff like getting more 4 stars maxed out, but there are just so many 4 stars on the bottom that are just rank 1 just because I haven't prioritized the rank ups. The 3-star roster is actually looking pretty good. For a long time I was way behind on maxing these guys out, but it is actually kind of nice to have a lot of the newer champions ranked, because with the practice feature you can use them to basically duel, and it's nice to have them at this level for duels. So yeah, well over half of them are max rank right now, but there still are a lot to go. Some are still at rank 1, and it is sort of just like a low-key goal of mine to get everybody maxed out. In terms of 2 stars, they're all maxed, and there's some fun ones for collection purposes there. And I think I have all the 1 stars that are available in the game, including that elusive Hulk that is so important for the variant with the 1 stars and everything. And then in terms of inventory, I've used all of my Awakening gems except for 1 generic, as we've talked about. So this one is almost for sure going to go to Hercules. Like, he's the obvious choice, but if I do naturally dupe him, we're going to be in really good shape. The 5-star gems are coming in quite fast these days. And in terms of Sig stones, like, I do have, as you can see, like a decent start for the cosmic ones and the generic ones to give to Hercules when that time comes. The tech ones, I'm just waiting to get enough to take Ghost from 180 all the way up. For skill, I'm still giving them to Elsa until she gets to Sig 180. She's pretty close to that. Science, I've already talked about, are probably going to go to Spider-Man 2099. And, the mutant ones I'm out of, but those all went to Apocalypse and Sunspot. And then, as you can see, I have 12 Mystics. So next item use, I'm going to start feeding those into Tigra. And that should be a pretty good time. I do have 1 more of these 2 to 3 gems, which is going to come in handy. Just saving some catalyst down the line. That one will be quite useful. So yeah, that's sort of where the account stands right now. I've done all the content except for variant 8, I believe. That's the only one that I'm just kind of waiting on it, because there are 2 tier 5 basics in it, and then the rest of the rewards aren't super important. So if I ever find a time where I need some extra tier 5 basic and some extra gold, and the 25% tier 5 isn't that bad, I will make an effort to finish this. But at this current state, I think it's more important to spend my time grinding arena and doing stuff like that to get the unit stash back up, because those deals really took all that grinding and just sort of like used them to give myself back some resources. So I'm looking forward to getting the unit total back up because it's quite low right now. And then for stuff like war, you know, having the ability to purchase some of the like boosts and stuff, as well as, you know, changing around masteries. Like I always want to have a chunk of units that are available for that, as well as saving for the next holiday and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of grinding coming up for sure, but that's kind of where the account lies right now. Thanks for checking out this video. Hope that this was enjoyable for you, and that's going to do it for today. So have a good one, and I will catch you guys in the next one.